Hey guys, it's Miss Black here. I am not at school today, but I couldn't leave you hanging. I decided I would record a video so we could just go on with the lesson like we normally would, because we are doing something new today. So I'll see you guys tomorrow in person, but for today, we're just going to go through class like normal, but on a video. So you guys should have the notes and you should be ready to start your warm-up. So if you're ready for the Thursday warm-up, tell me which expression has a value of -18. You can pause this video for a minute or two until everybody has a chance to solve it. Alright, whenever everybody is ready, let's see. On letter A, I notice that there's two minus signs in a row. It's subtracting a negative. So we can turn that into a big plus sign. I wonder if it lets me write on this thing. Text tool, blur tool. Ooh, there's a pen. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to make this into a big plus sign. And then if I'm doing my scoreboard, let's see. The negative team has 9. And the positive team also has 9, because we turned that into a plus 9. So since that's a tie, the score is 0, or the answer is 0. So that's not it. Let's see, this one, I'm going to make my scoreboard over here for B. So I see I have a 7 for the positive team. And then remember, since there's a minus sign in front of the 23, that counts for the negative team. So there's my scoreboard. You subtract the scores, you can see the negative team wins by 16. So that's -16. Alright, let's see. The third one, here's my scoreboard. I see we have 5 for the negative team, and we also have 13 for the negative team. So that means the negative team has 18 total. So if it's 18 to nothing, that means negative team wins by 18. So that looks like it. That equals -18, which is C. And D, just to make sure you guys understand that one, you would make a big plus sign. So 20 plus 2, that's just 22. Alright, so we spent the last couple of days working on adding and subtracting integers using the scoreboard method. And today we are going to move on to multiplying and dividing. So get your notes out in front of you. And we're going to start with multiplication. So multiplication represents repeated addition of a number. So just think about what happens when you're multiplying. If you're doing 4 times 5, you're just doing 4 groups of 5. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. Or 5 groups of 4. 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. Alright, then division represents splitting a number into equal parts. So whenever you're dividing something, you're sharing it equally. So that's going to help you kind of understand these models. So this is a lot easier than the adding and subtracting one, so we're just going to go over a few examples. But it says write an equation for each model. So if I'm looking at this, I see there's a bunch of negatives. They're kind of lined up in rows. So let's see if we can write a multiplication problem. And there's a couple different ways we could do it. I'm going to say, okay, in the first row, there's -4. So I see -4, and there's 2 rows of that. So -4 times 2. And the answer to that would be -8. Because there's 2 rows of -4, so that means -8 in total. You could also reverse it and say 2 times -4, because the commutative property says it doesn't matter which order you multiply numbers in. But let's just go with that one. And then this one, let's see what's happening here. We have 12 negatives. So I'm going to start with -12. And this looks like they're splitting it into groups. groups. So how many groups did they split it into? Looks like 3 groups, so they're dividing it by 3. And how many negatives are in each group? That would be 4. So it equals -4. So usually if you see them split into groups, I think of that as a division problem. And if you see them just lined up in rows, I think of that as a multiplication problem. And then on a number line, you're going to start at 0, just like we did with adding and subtracting. And we want to count how big each step is, and then how many steps there are. So let's see, this looks like they go -2, and then down 2 again, and then down 2 again, and then down 2 again, and then down 2 again. So they went down 2 each time, so -2. And how many times did they go down 2? 5 times. They took 5 hops. So -2 times 5 equals -10, because they ended up on the -10. Alright, so we're not going to focus so much on the models for multiplying and dividing. That was just a little example of how that works. We're going to spend more time today looking at a strategy for solving multiplication and division problems. So it says when you multiply and divide negative numbers, just do the math normally as if they were positive numbers. Then you can use Dorito Man. This will be fun. We got Dorito Man who's going to help us get the correct sign. So you're probably wondering what this is. This is Dorito Man. So he is a Dorito. I like to think he's a Cool Ranch Dorito, but that's just me. And we are going to fill in his face, which looks like this. He's kind of interesting looking. He's got negative signs for eyes and a positive sign for a mouth. And some people are artistic and they like to decorate him a little bit. You could give him a little mustache. Some people draw a little cape on him. I could draw some hair, some spiky hair. Whatever, but as long as he has the 2 negative signs and the positive, that's really all we need. Alright, so here is how Dorito Man's going to help us. We're going to solve the problem like normal. So if it says 12 times -3, we're just going to do 12 times 3. So we know 12 times 3 is 36. Then Dorito Man is going to help us get the correct sign for our answer. So here's what we're going to do. The first number in the problem was +12, so you're going to cover up the positive sign on Dorito Man. And the second number was -3, so you're going to cover up one of his eyes. And whatever sign is left, that's the sign of your answer. So that means our answer is -36, because we covered up +12 times -3. Alright, same thing works for division. So we can just divide the numbers like regular. So 50 divided by 10, we know that's 5. And it's a -50, cover up a negative sign, divided by a -10, cover up the other negative sign. So that means our answer is +5. So we just leave it. And then whenever you see a dot, that just means multiply. So that says -6 times -7. So we'll do the math like normal. 6 times 7 is 42. -6 times -7, cover up the eyes, and it's +42. Alright, this next one is written like a fraction. Whenever you see a fraction bar, that's just another way of writing division. So that just says 77 divided by -11. So I know 77 divided by 11 is 7. And it's a +77 divided by a -11. So cover those up, and that means our answer is -7. And then if you see 2 numbers in parentheses that are just right next to each other, that means you need to multiply them. So -16 times -2, multiply the numbers to get 32, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So we're done with that one. Alright, next one, I'm going to do 4 times 8. That's also 32. this time we have a positive 4 and a negative 8, which means our answer is negative 32. Alright, let's see. Let's do 120 divided by 4. So I can just think in my head, 12 divided by 4 is 3, and then add a 0. And it's a negative 120 divided by a positive 4. So the answer is negative 30. Remember, the dot means multiply. So 5 times 9 is 45. Negative times a positive is negative. And another division problem. 14 divided by 2 is just 7. Negative divided by negative, we just leave it as a positive. So really, you just do the math normally with positive numbers and then use Dorito Man to help you get your sign. And I think you guys will start to notice some patterns here. So you won't really need Dorito Man for that long. He's just kind of there to help you get started on this. But remember, whenever you draw Dorito Man, like on a test, I would just make it real simple. I would just draw a triangle. And just remember, he's got the 2 negative signs and the 1 positive sign. Also, cool thing about Dorito Man, his initials, Dorito Man, DM, also stand for divide and multiply. So you can remember this is only used for dividing and multiplying. This does not work for adding or subtracting. Alright, so make sure you got everything filled in, and then you can put those in your notes section. And you can pause this video for a sec while everybody puts these in their notes. Alright, whenever you guys are ready to move on, here's what you're going to be working on for the rest of class. So, first thing says, do the multiplying and dividing integers, fill in the blank sheet. Turn it into the tray when you're done. Let me show you how this works. So, everybody's going to get a sheet that looks like this. It says, as you solve each problem, put your answer in the blank space of the next problem. If you get them all correct, the answer at the end should be correct. So this will make more sense when I show you how it works. So, for example, I'll give you a freebie on number 1. Negative 10 times 8. I guess it'd be a good idea to draw Dorito Man. So it's a negative 10 times a positive 8. So that means it's going to be negative 80. So, since my answer is negative 80, I'm going to put that in the next blank for problem number 2. So now I'm going to solve 320, or negative 320 divided by negative 80. I'll give you one more freebie, which negative divided by negative is positive, so positive 4. You're going to take your answer and put it in the next one, so you're going to use positive 4. Let's just say you get 100 for this one. That's not right, but you would put 100 here. So you take the answer and you put it in the blank for the next problem. Alright, and then when you make it to the very end, the very last problem should equal negative 36 at the end. If it does not equal negative 36, then that means you messed up somewhere. So if you mess up, you can kind of check in with a friend and see if they can help you figure out where you messed up, so you don't have to do every single problem over. But this will be a good little challenge to get your brain thinking. And let's see what's next. It says, turn that in the tray when you're done. Then, step 2, go to Google Classroom, open up the Unit 3 agenda, and click on today's classwork, which is a booklet. And I think there's 25 questions on that booklet. So if you happen to finish that, then read your options on the board up front. So I'm going to leave that up there permanently. That's just, if you finish early, there's some ideas for you. You can work on something from the finish folder, do any of the extra practice on the unit agenda. You could do work for another class. You might have to catch up on IXLs or something for this class. Or you can always read a book. That's always going to be fine. So I'm not going to have you guys get your homework early today. The sub will pass out the homework when there's a few minutes left of class. So you can leave these directions on the board so everybody remembers what's going on. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.